Good afternoon. My name is Christy and Roy. I'm here with the Public Library of Brookline's ideaSPACE program. We're doing our weekly craft-along where we do a little bit of an ideaSPACE project in everybody's homes using sort of household materials that you might have lying around. This week we're going to be making our own envelopes. So for sending in the mail. So these can actually go in your mailbox outside. So if you have some relatives who maybe you haven't seen in a little while, you can write them a card and send it in a nice little custom envelope. And today I also have Roy McKenzie here with me from the reference department. Hi, Roy.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
And he is also going to be making some envelopes with us. And if you're following along at home, the things you're going to want to have are some kind of paper. That can be plain paper or construction paper, but it can also be just magazine paper or paper from an old book. You'll want a decent size sheet of paper, like an 8.5 by 11 or so, if you're going to send it in the mail, because the little tiny teensy envelopes like this, you can send them, but they'll sometimes cost extra stamps, and they'll also sometimes get lost just because they're so little. So if you're gonna send them in the mail, trying to get a little closer to a regular envelope size is a good idea. We'll also be using, I have some coloring pages that I'm going to use, so you can color them in and then turn them into envelopes, which can be fun too. You'll also want either glue or tape, and either a ruler for the one kind of folding only envelope that we'll be making, and scissors to cut it out, or you can download an envelope template, which I've linked for everybody at brklib.com/envelopes. And there's just a blog post that I found online. There are a million more blog posts like it that have example templates that you can download. And if you're like me and you don't have a printer at home, that's totally fine. I just use a sheet of paper and I literally put it to my laptop screen and trace the template out, because it doesn't need to be super exact in order to get smooth lines, and then you can use that as your template. And I have some that I have out of cardstock already that I just have lying around, but it's very similar stuff available online. So I'm going to switch to my desk cam so you can see what we're doing. And we will start with the one that doesn't need the templates, so that we can just dive right in. So I'm just gonna grab a sheet of paper. I think I'm gonna start with the one out of the coloring page, because that's kind of fun. This is just a regular coloring page that I had in the coloring book. And I'm just gonna do any kind of drawing and stuff is easier to do when everything's flat, so you don't have to be doing doodles kind of around the edges of your paper, so that's nice to do. And I like to leave a lot of it even just empty, black and white, and then have little pops of color. It's fun, but you can do it any way you want. You could even reuse, if you have coloring pages on the fridge from the kiddos in your house, that could be really fun to reuse them when you get new coloring pages to put up. To send them along to family members that way and turn those into envelopes.
Shanna, does it matter what size paper you're using right now?
It doesn't matter too much. I think it depends on what you want it for. I'm not going to cut mine down to shape or size right away. Eventually, for the envelope that I'm making currently, you're going to want a square. And you're not going to want to go so small that you end up with it, unless you want a teeny tiny envelope like this one that's really itty bitty. You're going to want a decent size, but this should be enough to make one that's about this size, which I'm less worried about getting lost in the mail. This guy's kind of tiny, so I would be more inclined to use it for like a gift that I was giving or something like that, and put a little like note about who the gift is for, rather than trying to send this, just because it is quite small. I don't want to torture my mail people. What are you using for your envelope starter today, Roy?
So I have a bunch of paper from a discarded book that has animal prints on it. It will look familiar to anybody who was doing the collage program. So it has birds and insects and sea creatures and things on it. It's two-tone paper, so it'll be really nice to draw on. I'll be able to see the lines really well. And when you do yours, how will you sort of make sure that the address label is clear on it? Do you add a piece of tape to it later?
Yeah, so what I did on this one that I did with the patterned sheet of paper is I had little label stickers, and I put one of those on there, but you could just do that with a regular piece of plain white paper and glue it on or tape it on, and that would be fun as well, just so that it's easy to read. And you might want to do one for your return address too. So again, make your make your postal service's lives easier.
Do like my postal carrier, so I think anything I can do to make her life easier, I will be happy about.
Yes. It's great timing to go get you're encouraging people to get stamps right now, so I thought that this was timely as well. I'm just going to do a little bit of coloring because I can always add some back in later. I'm going to want this to be a square for this folded envelope type. So in order to make my paper into a square, I'm going to do the kind of classic diagonal fold so that I know that what I end up with is a square, because this is not an exact square because I ripped it out of a book. So if I fold like this so that I'm creating a diagonal, then it's going to end up creating a square for me. And I just am going to play with it until the margins kind of make sense, and I'm making sure that like, so this like rough edge I'm going to slice off, and then this excess here that is not part of the square. And this is even easier if you're just doing an 8.5 by 11. I'll grab one that is similar to an 8.5 by 11. It won't be exactly an 8.5 by 11, but so like this kind of letter shaped paper, you can do the same thing where you're just gonna fold diagonally and line up the top edge with one of the long edges so that you end up with a square piece of paper when you trim it down.
Makes sense. Easily done.
That's very easy. And if you don't want an extra folding line there, you could do that on just a scrap piece of paper and then use that to trace out a square on the one that you actually want. I don't really mind a little bit of an extra crease because I figure it's gonna go in the mail system anyway, so it's not gonna be pristine by the time it gets there. I'm just gonna trim off the excess. Off of both of these. A square.
Square is much nicer than mine.
If it's close, it'll be fine. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna measure the edges of our square so we know how big it is. So mine's about, it's a little more than 8 inches. and I'm gonna find the center of the edge of my square, and I'm gonna make marks about like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch to the left and right of the center. Does that make sense? So my center is just a little bit, I just scooched my edges, so I'm looking at about 4 inches, and I'm gonna make a mark at 3 1/4 and 4 1/4. 3 3/4 and 4 8/4 rather. And I'm gonna do that on all sides of the square.
All 4?
Yeah. And once you make a few of these using either this method or the templates that you see online, you'll also kind of get a sense of how envelopes work like in 3D, which I think is not intuitive when you're just looking at a completed envelope, but you'll kind of get a sense for how they work, and then you can make your own like cooler templates. I like to make them on, at the library we have a Cricut, and those machines are super fun to do them on because you can put whatever kind of paper you want into the machine. And it's a cutting machine where you design something on the computer and then it'll cut it out for you, and it can cut out a bunch of copies. So when I did this one, I was able to print this flower print on here. I did it at a different place. I used a silhouette machine, which is the same thing as our Cricuts. It's these little electronic cutters. And I colored in the paper and everything, and then I ran the paper through the machine, and it cut out the envelope template that I had designed on the computer. And so then all of the edges were super crisp and easy. I didn't even have to use any scissors. So once I have everything marked out, do you have all your sides marked, Roy?
I am doing the last one now.
Cool.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn the paper so it's a diamond shape. So we want a pointy corner towards us. And we're gonna find the mark that's further away from us on each side, and that's going to be the line that is the edge of our triangle that we're going to fold.
Okay.
So it'll be easier to visualize, and I recommend using, if you have like a ruler or a straight edge of some kind, to lie that across, because that's the easiest way to get a really nice clean fold. So there's a mark here and here, but I'm gonna skip over those two because those are the two that are closer to me. And I'm gonna skip those, and I'm gonna go to these ones that are just a little bit further away. They're about a 1/2 inch further away from me than these first two. I'm gonna hold this, and I'm gonna fold my piece of paper to make a little triangle. Now I'll fold it back the other way. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other 3 corners. And you're going to notice that the triangle, the little corners of your triangles will overlap because you're folding across to the further away spot on each one. So again, I'm just going to rotate this so it's a diamond. I'm going to find my 2 little marks that I made on each side, and I'm going to pick the further away ones, the ones towards the other corners, not the ones closer to me. Line up my straight edge. So your 2 triangles should make a tiny little triangle fold in between. I'll do it on this sheet of paper too, because I think it'll be a little bit easier to see that. And my measurements are just going to be a smidge different on this piece of paper because the piece of paper is a little bit smaller. So this one's more like 7 inches. So I'm just going to adjust in. Again, just going to find the center of whatever that is and then go a 1/4 inch left and right.
How many of these have you done, Christiana?
I just learned how to do this one that doesn't require any template. So I've only made a few of these. When I was working at a prison library, we had a coloring club, and this was one of the projects we did there. So I pre-cut everything. I used that's what this one is from we pre-cut them on a silhouette and then brought them in. So everyone in the program got to color their own envelope and then fold it up. So I did a bunch for that. But I got to use a machine, so I didn't have to hand cut all of those. Easier to see on this one because the paper's white. But this is what my folds end up looking like, these 2 big triangles with a tiny little triangle in between that's formed by the fold lines. So I'll draw. I drew.
Oh yeah.
And then you can pick what direction you kind of want to be up on your envelope. Sometimes it doesn't matter because your design is really abstract. It doesn't matter so much, but if you have a direction, you're gonna want to decide. And mine, if you wanted, like, so for mine, the picture is this way. So if I had actually wanted it to stay this way on the envelope, I actually would have wanted one of the points to be underneath wherever I was finishing. So mine's going to be...
Right, because it's going to be rotated a little, right?
Sideways, because what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over, because I want this, whatever side you want to be the flat side of your envelope, you're going to flip downwards. So this side where you put your mailing address and you put your stamp, that you're going to want down against the table. And then you're going to fold one of the triangles up into the middle. And then the 2 side triangles into the center. And this should also catch the corner of that triangle so that you end up with a square edge. And you can see that it looks like an envelope pretty much immediately, which is cool. And then you can glue or tape these triangles together and you'll have a little pocket for whatever you're going to send.
It's very cool.
And then this last triangle is just your envelope flap. And if you have like corner cutters or something, you could make rounded edges on the tops of the envelopes. You could cut them into circles or anything like that. So then that is the front of my envelope.
Very nice.
Go back in. And you could also do some of the initial folding and then unfold it again to make it easier to color on if you wanted to kind of see where all the pieces will end up when you're done. Because that can be kind of hard to judge when it's all still flat. And I'll do this other one too. So I started.
Are you gluing yours or taping yours? I missed. I'm sorry.
I'm taping mine for speed. But you could definitely, the glue probably in the long term would be more durable. But if you just put a little piece of tape underneath, like facing up and catching the edge of your first triangle, then it's really easy just to fold the side triangles in and have them stick. It's nice and simple. And actually with this one, if you have envelope seals, even that will really hold it together, as long as it's pretty sticky. I have. And I say envelope seals, but like stickers. Good size stickers are fine.
Well, now I feel like I need to go get some good size stickers.
Mm. You can coordinate them, or yeah. Because envelope seals are just like circle stickers. And then I might want to take some other pattern, some other like non-pattern paper to use as the space for writing the address on. This part you would probably want to use glue because you want to make sure all the edges get totally flattened down, or cover the whole piece in tape. But you wouldn't want to just like donut underneath.
Now your friends and family can look forward to receiving some nice custom envelopes, some letters.
Yeah.
And how hard would it be to turn this same sort of folding strategy into a rectangular envelope?
I think you would need a different dimension of paper in thinking about it. Because you would need the two of the corners to be just a wider angle. Mm-hmm. Right? Figure it out on a piece of paper you would want. And the other thing you can do, if you just have regular mailing envelopes at your house or your apartment, you can just unfold one of them. And that will tell you
True, true.
what you would need. But I would imagine you would need something more along the lines of this.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
Sort of a
it
diamond
just,
shape anyway.
yeah, it would be a little funkier. The nice thing about this is you're just all working with right angles, which makes it simpler, and this wouldn't be right angles. This would be a much tighter angle, and this would be a much wider angle. But you could do the same exact thing. You would just need a longer, wider piece of paper.
Cool.
And that's why and some of the templates will include something like this for this kind of triangular, classic triangular envelope shape. The other way that you can do it that can be, I think, a little more efficient in the use of paper, if you're using your piece of the paper at home, is this kind of envelope where you have really wide side pieces and these really tiny top and bottom flaps. So I will show you what that looks like on one of these templates. Because this also ends up making a rectangular envelope, but it doesn't require quite as long of a sheet of paper as you would need for really wide side flaps, and to get that kind of the envelopes that open from the top this way. If we move the top to this side, we can just kind of use squares on this edge. Still gonna need a good size piece of paper. This is wrapping paper. It's just not like a shiny wrapping paper, but you could use that too. The shiny wrapping paper might rip more easily. So, and there are a bunch of like templates like this online. And these ones, you just trace them and then cut them out. Which is nice. This is the kind that is especially nice to use the cutting machine on because there's these little rounded corners and things like that.
That looks like fun wrapping paper.
Wrapping paper is a great paper for if you need like a lot. So it's good for this because you can make the larger envelopes out of it. Especially if you have, like I have a lot of the brown paper, like craft paper, wrapping paper.
Or the sort of like heavier weight.
Yeah, it's not shiny, so you can write on it and everything. It'll be a little sturdier.
Seems like that's useful paper for a variety of crafts.
It is. I like it. It is helpful. And it's nice for giving gifts and things because you can write whatever you want on top of it. Or add, holiday appropriate, celebration appropriate things without having 8 different wrapping papers, which I do not have room for in my apartment.
Do you know, offhand, Christiana, do we have any similar sort of programs to this in, oh my God, I've forgotten the name, the resource, the streaming.
Oh, in Creative Bug?
Creative Bug, thank you.
There are a bunch of really cool, you know what they have a ton of is bookbinding tutorials.
Oh, that would be fun.
Which is really cool, and it involves a lot of the same tools. I'm actually going to pull out, this is called a bone folder. It's a very nice tool to have. It's also very unnecessary. You don't need one. They are like nice if you do a lot of projects like this. They're like very specific, and it just helps you fold really straight. But fun fact, you can also use literally anything with a slightly blunt point to it. So a pen with the pen part retracted, or a pen that is out of ink, that you're sure doesn't have any ink left, or if you have a pencil that doesn't have any eraser and you wanted to use like this sharp edge of it, all of that would work. Is it with a ruler, so you can do the folds the way we did it, where we kind of folded into the ruler, but if you want things really precise, you can line up where you want the fold to be, and then you can run whatever sort of blunt point you have along there, and it lets you create these really crisp folds that look
Ooh, that's amazing.
more like what you would see in a card shop.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't need one of these. But you do use these a lot for bookbinding because you want to make really nice, neat, consistent folds for the papers that you want in the middle of the book. And Creative Bug has some really, really fun bookbinding tutorials and like different alternative, just like envelopes, like different alternative bindings to do and different patterns that you can, if you're using like wax thread to stitch up the sides of your books, then like different patterns you poke the holes through the pages so that you can make little designs on the edges. And all of their tutorials are super, super fun. And I learned about a lot of like the cool tools that I have now were tools that I learned about that I didn't know existed until I watched those tutorials, and I was like, oh, that's like really nice. I got these fancy detail scissors. I say fancy, they're like a few dollars. But they're amazing for cutting paper because they have teeny tiny little snipping points.
I have a pair of those, and they are amazing.
They are wonderful, and I found out about them from one of the Creative Bug tutorials, and I was like, this has changed my life because I was using my regular scissors to do everything. And
I use them to do the paper cuts, like you know, the crafting. You cut out a design in the paper, and you can put it in a frame. It's fun. It's time-consuming, and I appreciate the sort of ability to zone out while I do it once you have the pattern designed. But those little tiny scissors are so crucial for getting some of the really fine line work cut out, because regular scissors are just impossible to work with at that scale.
I also got my other favorite ridiculous tool that I have that is just these X-Acto knives that are not, they're on like a finger grip.
Oh.
Instead of on a pen grip.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think everybody would like them, but I find them so much easier to control for exactly that, for those paper cutting projects, which would be very cool to combine with the envelopes, especially for like gift envelopes. Like if you're not sending them in the mail, and you could cut out, you could like trace letters and then cut it out and then have a contrasting card color.
Oh, that would be really cool.
That would be very cool. I think that would be fun. I don't think I can do that quickly enough to do it today. But I think it would be fun.
You're giving me lots of ideas for future projects now.
Yeah, I get very into gift wrapping. So, it's really fun.
So do you have a sneak teaser for our watchers about what your next craft is going to be?
Next week, we're doing an extra super exciting event because we're going to be partnering with Big. We always partner with Big, but we're also going to be partnering with Hadassah from the Welcome Blanket Project, who has also now created this amazing Got Masks Brookline website where folks can advertise that they either need masks for their families, or that they need extra masks, like cotton masks, and that they have them to give away to different people in the community. So she will be joining us, and Joyce from the Brookline, she's with the Brookline Senior Center, and she has made thousands of masks, her and her friends. She normally does quilting, and she's made thousands of cotton masks for donation for different healthcare workers. And we're going to be doing a sew-along and making our own cotton masks just with hand sewing. So we did a no-sew mask video a few weeks ago, and next week we're going to be doing a sewn mask tutorial. But all the materials other than needle and thread are going to be super simple, easy, around the house type things. So you can use a t-shirt that's made out of cotton, and we'll be using hair ties for the elastic straps, or you can use shoelaces or ribbon if you don't have hair ties that are the right size for your ears. And we're going to be doing just the easiest mask tutorial video that I've seen, I think, this entire time. I know there's a huge proliferation of them, so I like to find the easy ones that are more approachable. And going to be hearing from Joyce and Hadassah about sort of their tips for all the work they've been doing, and talking about all of the exciting projects they've been involved with.
That sounds like that will be a very exciting craft. I will
It is. It's so
not be co-hosting that one, but I will probably be following along.
Yeah, it's very fun. And the no-sew ones were super fun. I made one out of one of my husband's old cat t-shirts that had a giant cat face on it. So the mask looks like I have a cat face. It was amazing. Now I have one of those. It's great. So I strongly encourage the most ridiculous t-shirts that you have left over.
I definitely have a lot of weird t-shirts left over.
Right? So that's very fun. And then you're recycling and helping somebody who needs a mask. Double win.
It's a double win. Like it. Now I have 2 great envelopes. I will be very excited to send.
Yeah, I just finished my second one too. And this is the one out of the template, so you can see it's nice and long, so it's more regular letter size. It's just got the side open instead of the front. I really like it if you have if you have paper that has different patterns on each side, then that can be cool, because then you can have like a little contrast. It's like you did like envelope liner contrasting colors, but you don't have to actually cut more pieces of paper. Although there are great tutorials for how to do that as well. And you basically just cut a smaller piece of paper that is the same shape as your first piece of paper and glue it together. And then you have...
Seems simple enough.
super snazzy envelope liners.
Like now I'm going to need to look up how to make interesting papers or cards to put inside here.
Yes. Well, and the other thing that is nice if you do the 8.5 by 11 one is you end up with a little piece of paper that is about the right size. It's a little on the small side, but you could definitely fold it into a little card, and the card would definitely fit. Nice.
I was thinking I could use the decoupage skills I learned during the collage program to make a nice little card.
That is
Probably too heavy for a single stamp, but
yeah, I like to throw extra. If I'm on the edge, I'm like, I don't have a postal scale. I just throw 2 stamps on it, and I'm like, no, we'll get there. And then sometimes I'm extra fancy, and I'll add the lines so that I can do like hand lettering on the address.
Very nice.
Which is fun too. Let's see.
Do you have a special tool for that?
I have one that it's another unnecessary tool that has little lines. It's a ruler, but it's just got little, it's got evenly spaced lines, and you put it over your envelope and you draw. But you can do the exact same thing with a ruler. But I did get it because I was addressing all of the envelopes for my wedding by hand. And so I got it for that, because it was not worth having to measure out the distance between the lines on every single envelope. Roy, do you want to show off your envelopes that you've finished?
Sure. They're not quite as neat as yours, but so I have this nice paper here with all of the sea creatures and animals on it. You can see on the back there's a little bit of line work from the paper itself. Just hold it up. A little text on the inside. That'll work nicely for a card or something, collage or something. And the other one, I put some black lines across it just to give it some contrast. The paper is sort of blue. It's a little hard to see there, but it's got some nice bold animal drawings on it as well, which I really like. And then the same thing. Hold up. So I think they turned out pretty well for a first try.
Yeah.
And now if my family is watching, they'll know what to watch out for in the mail.
I did pull out you can also, like, if you have like glitter, or I had my embossing powder out the other day. The envelopes are really fun to do with that too.
I thought you were about to suggest people could fill the envelopes with glitter, which I think would be a very cool envelope to receive.
A cool envelope or a cruel envelope?
Cruel and unkind. It would be an unkind envelope to send to somebody, an envelope filled with glitter.
It all depends on your perspective. I think any parents who are watching would agree that is a mean thing to do. Certainly, it is glitter is infamous in the library too.
So, and I noticed for my paper, I got this from a book that was heavily damaged, so the pages were all falling out on their own. But they do have the nice contrast that you were describing, where the interior of the envelope looks very different from the exterior just because of the nature of the book. So if you have a an old book that's falling apart, that might be a good place to get paper for this project as well.
I'm just gonna grab my embossing powder, which I pulled out last week too. But it's really fun. But you can do the same thing with paint. Anything that would create a really nice opaque finish. So embossing powder is like, it's like glitter, but it doesn't get everywhere when you're done. It gets everywhere when you're applying it. But when it gets to the person, it is no longer a problem.
What did you use to adhere it to the envelope? Was it a glue stick or?
It is a special little pen, but you can also use any kind of, oh, this is the wrong pen. That's this special little pen. That has like just a really mild adhesive in it. So it's a little brush pen. And you can use it just like that. And then they also make it in ink pads, but you can also use any regular ink too, and then just put it on top.
As long as it's still wet when the...
Yeah, and then it's basically just fancy meltable glitter. So it's glitter that when you point like a hairdryer or a heat source at it, melt it into a permanent surface.
Very cool.
And it is what they use on a bunch of cards that you see at the store. So it can create kind of the same effect as what you would see on like a regular Hallmark card. Mine didn't get quite wet enough, so I'm going back over it.
Like you're going to double my craft budget for the month. All these cool new things that I know about now.
These things. But you can do a lot of the same effects with just like acrylic paint too. To be fair. It is fun to do the embossing powder. Let me see it. Like, ooh. My embossing gun is in my desk, so I just dislodged the camera slightly, but
And you said it's basically just like a fancy hairdryer, more or less.
it is a fancy hairdryer. It gets hotter than your hairdryer probably. You could definitely like burn some things with it. You don't want to leave it on the paper for too long. And it just melts the surface. And I usually mute when I use it for these because it is very loud and I don't want to destroy people who are just innocently browsing through Facebook.
I feel like at this point, I wish we had special hairdryer embossing gun music that we could just kick on right now. Something for us to think about in the future. And that was so fast. It took no time at all.
It is super speedy. And then now it's all shiny.
Oh yeah.
And it gets this cool glossy finish, which is very fun. Now I probably can't send this one in the mail because it says hello instead of an address, but...
You could put an address on the other side.
Good. That's fun too. We have one of these at the library because the teen librarian uses them for shrinky dinks, which is very smart.
Oh yeah.
Because you can just,
Excellent.
these get hot enough that you don't have to use an oven or anything. You just get your shrinky dink and stick it there when it's finished and just point this at it and it shrinks like that. Like it takes 30 seconds to do one instead of having to preheat your oven and everything.
Yep.
That's what we use those for at the library. Lots and lots of shrinky dinks. Very fun. And as I have mentioned many times, I also like them because it just dries glue really fast. And I don't like waiting for glue to dry.
So like if you had just glued paper, you could just blow the gun over the paper and...
Yeah, especially for like the
Right.
collage, I'll just keep a hairdryer. That was an amazing, I went to a makerspace like a year ago and they had mini hairdryers at every single station. And I was like, that's the most amazing idea I've ever heard of. So that when you were waiting for your paint to dry and you were like bored, you would just grab one and kill it and you didn't have to wait like 20 minutes for your acrylic paint to dry because you just do it super quick.
Very cool. Yeah. Good tip.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on the end. It was very good to craft with you, Roy.
Oh, thank you. It was exciting to craft with you. Now I know how to make envelopes. I don't know if everybody on staff knows, but I am a fairly avid letter writer and card sender. So I will definitely get plenty of use out of these. I just went to the post office yesterday and sent out 10 envelopes, 0 of which I had made myself. But now that can change.
It can. That's exciting. That'll be really fun. Well, thank you all for joining us again. We're going to have an extra special program next week with Big and the Senior Center and the Welcome Blanket Project. And we'll all be making sewn masks, but they'll be super easy sewn masks. They're like the simplest possible sewn mask you can make. So they're not scary. They're very easy. It's 2 tiny straight lines of stitches and that's it. So you don't need a sewing machine. You can do it on a sewing machine if you happen to have one and it'll be extra quick. But even without one, it would probably only take at most 30 minutes. That's if you really take your time and you're a little nervous. And all you're gonna need is cotton fabric of some kind, including could just be an old t-shirt, and a couple of hair ties or a shoelace or some ribbon to make your straps, and then your needle and thread. And it'll be really, really easy and it'll be super fun. So we'll be looking forward to that next week. Thanks so much. We're here every Thursday at 4 p.m. And we have a different program, a different craft to do every week, and a different librarian who joins along with me to give it a try. So thank you so much, Roy, for being that librarian this week.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for teaching me a new skill.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.